if you walked into the second temple and I told you that over here to the right, there's 4 or 5 tables of people changing out money and they're ripping people off by charging 4% extra on their money changing, right? Yep. Okay, that's happening. Now you look to your left and there are people wading up to their ankles in blood. As Josephus, the ancient Jewish historian, tells us, animals are screaming and they're being killed by the hundreds of thousands in 1 week, maybe even 1 million, he says. This is maybe.
Yeah, I read up to 250,000 a day on some days. Like you said, these are a long time ago, so it's hard to be exact, but it was just massive. I've never heard of this.
So again, we'll get to the Jesus part, but just imagine yourself. If you walked in, what are you more upset about, right? Is it the money over here, or is it like, let's focus on this? And that's what we see in the Gospels. We see in the Gospels, every single account, Jesus contends with the cattle dealers by either freeing the animals or addressing them first. And the money changers are mentioned after the fact. And in Luke's gospel, they're not even mentioned. So it's like, it's important, but it's secondary. It's a circumstance to the real problem, which is all of this demonic slaughter.
And Jesus felt enough rage to premeditate. I imagine he probably had people with him, to come in and do an attack on the temple, which led to his crucifixion.
Yeah. And, you're an MMA guy, you know strategy, like how to think that way. And what we don't realize is Jesus, it's not like he just came in and had a burst of like emotional anger and kind of lost himself. It says in Mark's gospel, it was premeditated. Yeah. It says in Mark's gospel that he went the night before and did recon. Mm-hmm. So, he's rolling deep with like.
He built his whip just to flip it over and stuff, right? So he must have, I don't know the specifics, but imagine he must have came in with a whole like army of like.
Yeah, well, he had what most would say would be anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 people rolling deep with him into Jerusalem, and then he did that recon. And so it actually says that in Mark that they wouldn't allow any merchandise to be carried in or out. The only merchandise being sold were animals.
Yeah.
So they were like, let's say, blocking the doors and keeping people from bringing any more animals in and letting all the animals out. And he's throwing down, I imagine, screaming or talking, saying, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. This is meant to be a house of prayer, but you've made it a den of thieves, as we talked about in the film, which is a bit of a misnomer and another cover-up, the mistranslation of that word. So, yeah, dude, people think that because we in this film are addressing this issue of animals and whether or not Jesus would care about animals, that it becomes, the vegetarian vegan conversation, which is often associated with hippie.
The whole film is this. It covers a bunch of different things. We're mostly focused on the Jesus part because of my audience, but religions, it's just, I think some of the stuff was awesome on film, but would be hard. We were talking about earlier, would be hard to transfer to podcasts. Like some of the crazy, when you went out to, you said it wasn't India, it was Nepal, like wild animal sacrifices they're doing today, just insane.
Well, we had to draw the parallel because it's one thing, like you said, it's so long ago and it becomes so subjective when you're talking about this ancient tradition. So yes, in the film, towards the end as well, we found out that there is a mass temple animal slaughter, the biggest one in the world that still happens today. That's the closest thing one could experience in real time to what was actually happening.
It's
so
hard,
we went.
It's hard watching that,
Yeah.
You see this, you're like, wow. Back off topic, but Jesus had a brother. I didn't even know this.
Right.
Who was a vegan.
Exactly. So this is kind of getting into the territory of what Netflix wasn't comfortable with. So, and this is why it was so important for us to buy the rights back and put it out, because like I said, it felt like a continuation of the censorship that's already happened for 2,000 years. The fact that you didn't know Jesus had a brother, that's a problem. Like, it's a big problem. I didn't know it growing up. The church doesn't teach it. Yet he was the appointed leader of the movement after Jesus until his death for many, many, many years. And then there was a succession and a lineage of people that followed after him, I think up to like 13 bishops in Jerusalem before the temple was destroyed. And then after that, the movement becomes the Roman Catholic thing and all of that. And, I want to be very clear too, this isn't, this movement was completely against the Orthodox Judaism of the time. They were a complete rebel movement. They were called the Nazarenes. And this, again, we talk about in the film, everybody thinks this is the big, big cover up that I think was the most challenging for Netflix with our emails back and forth, is that they were like, why are we talking about this misnomer with Jesus of Nazareth versus Jesus the Nazarene? And what that is, we explain it in the film, is that for the last 2,000 years, what's one of the most common things we know about Jesus, or that we know about anyone when we first meet them? Where are they from?
Nazareth.
Yeah, he's born in Nazareth, right? Well, we show in the film, and you can, fact check this. You can look it up on Wikipedia at this point now, that the term Jesus of Nazareth is a misnomer for Jesus the Nazarene or Nazarene. It's a Greek term. It's written in the Greek, but it actually goes back to the Hebrew, and it's a sectarian title. It actually, the way the Greek is written, it can't, especially Jesus the Nazarene, it can't refer to someone from Nazareth. It doesn't work that way, the vocabulary.
Yeah.
So it's a sect, and they had a very specific differentiation from the Orthodox Judaism of the time, which was the blood cult, money, mafia thing that was going on that established so many issues that we still are facing today. And they did a full frontal assault on it. It was like Luke Skywalker and the Rebel Alliance going into the Death Star, you know?